need to go stay with your mama.
All right. Let's see. Gotta get order in here. Let's see. Here we go. All right. I hate being up here. And that's just great. That's just not what I was built to do. I'd rather stand in a corner and talk. I talk to you all day, but I don't like being up here. And both my grandfathers, of course, everybody knows Nut here has led singing, and my other grandfather, Tharp Rhodes, led singing forever at Friendship Church. And so they both had plenty of experience being up here, and I wish I did at this moment, but I don't. And so we're going to work through it. And Granddaddy said something this morning that he said, if you participate in a service, you enjoy it better. And that's true. And so I'm going to ask Uncle Gary to participate for a minute. Have you got a blue hymnal in front of you there?
I can't sing.
No, just bear with me. And will you? That's the little one. So if you got it, turn to page 46, please, and just read the title for everybody.
Somebody probably already knows. Come on, let's all go home.
Motion. Got a second? Motion. Got a second? Second? All right. I think y'all got a second over here. Calling it night. But Jake called and asked me to do this, and we as people, and we as Christians sometimes we say something without really thinking. We don't say what we mean. And because when Jake asked me, he said, "Hey, will you speak Sunday night?" And I said, "Sure." That's not what I meant. It's not what I wanted to say, but I typed it out and hit send before I could think about it twice. And so I've been for, that was what, Wednesday, Jake, something like that, Tuesday. It's been long enough that I've had plenty of time to dread it. And so.
Benefit of the doubt, I asked him about 20 days before it was. I didn't give him very long.
Because he knew it wouldn't work out. I'd come up with an excuse if he did. And so I've been trying to figure out a topic, and I was thumbing through the Bible, just looking at stuff. And I did get to thinking, we're in a Baptist church. And I got to think, well, the guys that wrote the gospel, I wonder, you always wonder about them, whether they're Baptist or not. And so I got flipping through them. And I came up with one fact, I think, that made all four of those fellows Baptist. And, it might not, everybody might not agree with this. There's two miracles in every gospel. One of them's the resurrection. The other is when they fed those fish to all 5,000 folks, ain't it, Brother Al? Tell me I ain't a Baptist. All four of them, the only miracle out of all the miracles Jesus did, the feeding fish to folks, was the one all four of them decided to mention. That makes them Baptist. They've got to. And so I thought, well, I can't really talk about that. That wouldn't be a very long deal. So I got to ride around thinking about other stuff, and it hit me one day, and I asked my mother to be here tonight because I needed her here because I felt like this would. She's kind of one of my illustrations for this sermon. And I drove by and I saw that camper they're living in right now. If y'all don't know, they tore down their house. They're building another one. Right now they're living in this little camper. And so I drove by and I saw that, and Daddy sleeps in there, and his head is touching the outside wall of the camper, and his feet's touching the inside wall. And there's just not much room in his little bedroom there. And I got to thinking, it hit me. I said, that's like the Bible. So I got to looking, I researched it. It's Judges 16. And I got thinking about how a woman could really bring a good man down. Judges 16 is Samson and Delilah. And I thought, boy, you just... I'm kidding. That's not my... I just wanted Mr. Billy to hear that because I knew he'd get a kick out of it. This morning, the speakers this morning were fantastic. Sean, I didn't know he was speaking. He didn't know I was speaking. So it was a nice surprise. And then Colton, too. And Colton brought up the thing about visual aids. And you can tell both of those men are used to talking to people. And it doesn't bother them. And they handled it really well. But when Colton said that about visual aids, I said, that's a wonderful idea. And as you notice, I don't have it. So it ain't really for y'all, it's for me. I got Mr. Edwin to play Georgia and Alabama on that TV back there, and I'm watching it while y'all are looking this way. And so it's a visual aid for me, and so it makes it a little easier to be up here. But I was thinking about Sean this morning, and this is going to be, y'all going to kind of give an example of what a Spanish teacher at the University of Georgia got circa 2004. Because Sean was very adept at Spanish. He was a semester ahead of me at Spanish, and he didn't mind going to them classes. And attendance was part of your grade in those classes, and I didn't want to go to them classes. So I asked Sean, I said, Sean, look, every so often, if you don't mind, if, you know, turkey season, I said, I'll go turkey hunting or something, you can go get a refresher on Spanish. And I said, part of that is, when you go in there, I told him right where I sat, I told him who my little friends were in there, who to talk to, you know, and I said, if she calls on you, I said, and I hope she don't. I said, but if she calls on you, don't get up and rattle it off. Because I'm going to be back in there the next time. And she's going to call on me, and I'm going to stutter and stammer, and it just looked bad. And to his credit, he always made it work. I never got in trouble for not being there. And so I appreciate that a lot. It was 5% of my grade, and if you were a student like me, 5% was a lot. That's the difference between 68 and 73. That counts. I mean, that's a big difference. And so, and that's part of having a twin and going and doing stuff like this. It's a unique experience, and he helped me through that part of college. And one other time that being his twin really helped me in school was we were day back still, and he took an art class the semester before me, and he killed it. I mean, he absolutely destroyed that art class. They had extra credit on the test. His average for that class was what, 120 something? Something like 120. So the next semester I signed up for it. So the lady's going down the row, and we're sitting there in the class, first day of class. She gets to my name. She goes, Brandon Shane Rhodes. He's Brendan Sean Rhodes. And she said, Brandon Shane Rhodes. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm here. And she said, will you see me after class? I said, well, great. Here we go, right out the jump. And so after class, I go up there and I asked her. She said, didn't I have you last semester? I said, no, ma'am, that's my twin brother. And she said, well, y'all must be identical. I said, we are. And she said, well, he kind of ruined my class last semester. He made it where I couldn't. I mean, it ruined all my grading. It ruined everything about it. And she said, are you as smart as him? I said, man, that's the dumb one. And she said, if you'll just come and not ruin this class, I'll give you an A. I said, I'll be here. Don't you and that was our deal to this day. That was how I made sure I got that A in art class, and it worked out really well for me. There was times that college was very, very easy, and sometimes it wasn't that easy. I wanted to get to really my real topic now, and I think part of the reason I get so nervous up here is my whole life we were told we got spankings if we made noise in church. I mean, y'all remember? Y'all were here. I mean, almost all y'all were here to see them. That's what somebody told me one day. They said, you ain't had to come down out of the choir or nothing to spank your boys yet. And I said, she said, yeah, y'all's parents did. I said, yeah. I said, my children got better parents. But I know, and I'm sure y'all heard it and know about it. Me and my wife and kids, we went to the Georgia and Alabama championship game a couple weekends ago. And I was at the University of Georgia from 2002 to 2006. And the whole time I was there, and I know y'all doing the math in your head right now, that's 4 years. That guy must have been a good college student. I've been at ABAC 2 years before that. So 2.5. So it wasn't, I was not a good student. I was trying to get my 4-year while Sean, I was getting him through law school. Sometimes you know how it is to have a twin. Sometimes you take one for the team and you just try to help them out. And so I was helping him get through law school, and when I saw he was going to be able to make it, I said, well, my job here is done. And so I eased on. But while we were in school up there, of course, football was a big thing, and all I wanted was Georgia to win a national championship while I was a student there. I mean, that was going to be the magic thing. And man, we had some good teams back then. We thought there were times we were going to do it. It just didn't work out. And so Granddaddy finally said, hey, you got to leave. And I said, well, okay. And so I came home without us having won one. And that was a disappointment to me. And that's, and so the other night we were sitting in Indianapolis. It's been gin season. I haven't been home much. I haven't get to see my wife and kids, spend the time with them I'd like to. So when Georgia beat Michigan, which made my day too, I hate Michigan. And when Georgia beat Michigan, and we saw we were going to be in that game, I told her, I said, we'll go. I said, well, Daddy told me, he said, look, you need to go. He said, take your time. We got a kid that was from Chris County that my wife tutored, helped get him to Georgia. We took him on a recruiting trip there, so it was special having somebody as part of that team. And he got his tickets, and so that helped. And he said, you need to go. So we went. He's watching him grow has been as big a part of the fun of Georgia football. And so we were sitting there at that game, and of course we won. And it was a madhouse like you'd expect it to be. And I was beside myself. I mean, that was the thing I wanted for Georgia football. And on the drive home, I got to thinking about it. And it's like I told her, I said, if I'd have been a student up here, if it had happened when I was 22 years old, I'd have enjoyed it. But the fact I sat there, and my wife's an alumni from Georgia, I sat there with my two little boys and my wife and got to watch that. And I know it's silly to care that much about college football. I get that. It's not real life. But it's just that experience with my family was way better than what it would have been to a 22-year-old college kid. And that got me to thinking about God's timing and how things don't work out. Things you really want. I mean, things that you just think, this needs to happen. This will make my life right if this happens. And you pray about it, you think, and it don't. And you just keep going through, and time goes by, and you realize that God's timing is really what you need. And it's not your deal. And there's a few verses here. I didn't want to get up here without reading a few verses and all. So of course I got to researching, looking for this, and there's a bunch of verses in the Bible about God's timing. But one of them was Proverbs 16:9. In his heart a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. And that just tells you, you can plan what you want, you can do what you want, but God's got it. He's the one that's going to determine what you do. And then there was another one just a few chapters over in Proverbs 20:24. A man's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand his own way? And it just, God's in control of this. And then I found one in the New Testament. I do a lot of reading in James. To me, James is a good book. It's got a lot of stuff in it. It's probably the most highlighted book in my Bible. It's one I go to when I just need kind of a refresher. And I marked it, if y'all can't tell, that is 2022 confetti from the national championship game, the one we won, Georgia won, and so it rides right there. And James 1:4, perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And that was the difference between a 22-year-old kid that would have been excited and a grown man with his family. That trip I took with my family through Kentucky and Tennessee, Indianapolis, the amount of fun we had on that trip, even just getting there. Like, if we'd have lost the game, would it have hurt? Absolutely. But the amount of time I got to spend doing that with my family, that has been, and we've been all over the place, and that's been one of my favorite trips, because it was just us in the car, riding, having fun. And it was just a good trip. And looking back on it now, I can appreciate why we did not win a national championship in some of them early years that I couldn't understand at the time. And I know we could have won one both times, you say. Well, I wouldn't have appreciated this one as much as I did if we'd have won one then. And it's just something that hit me on the way home, because Lord knows we had plenty of time to think on that 12-hour ride home, sitting between Nashville and Chattanooga in traffic. And it's just been something that I was glad, Jake, I was secretly glad. As much as I hate talking, I was glad you asked me to talk, because that had been on my mind for 2 weeks. About Georgia have to win another national championship before you ask me again. So could be a while. Could be a while. But I'm terrible. Sean, wonderful at speaking. You can tell he's been trained to do it. He prepares well for it. I'm the flip side of the coin. I'm not prepared for it, and so I got to look for something. You hate to get up here and not tell some kind of joke. And so I got looking for a preparation joke, and my mother's gonna sweat when I start this joke, because she knows she's heard me tell this joke. But there was a fellow woke up one day and there was a gorilla on his roof. So he thought, oh goodness. He said, what am I going to do about a gorilla up there? So he looks up on Google. He's like, how do I get a gorilla off my roof? And sure enough, it popped up an ad, gorilla removal service. He said, well, that's fantastic. So he called the guy. Guy pulls up in an old truck and gets out, and the gorilla's up there just peeking, looking to see what's going on. Guy jumps out, and he gets out, and he says, I don't need your help. And homeowner says, fine, I'll help you. He hands him a stick, and gives him some handcuffs, and the guy's toting a little Jack Russell dog, and he's got him a shotgun. So the man climbed, he said, what are we doing? Well, I need to know your plan, so I know. And the guy says, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to climb up on that roof, and I got this stick, and I'm going to poke that gorilla. And when that gorilla falls off that roof, that dog's going to run up there and bite him. He said, when that dog bites him, that gorilla's going to throw his hands in front of him, and you slap them handcuffs on him. We got him. The man said, okay. He said, well, what's the shotgun for? He said, well, if I fall off for that gorilla, shoot that dog. And that is being prepared. Thank y'all.